Welcome back. We're going to talk about overloading. We're going to talk about overloading methods, overloading operators. You'll allow me create, or I can still work with this, no problem. I can still work with this program, but let me just create a new class. So on our package here, lessons, we right click. Yeah, on our package we're supposed to right click. I'm working on a really slow machine. Okay. Alright guys, so we are talking about overloading, that is method overloading and constructor overloading. We have talked about constructors in the previous class. So I want us to begin by talking about overloading methods. Now, if you can recall, I said Java cannot allow two local variables to have two local variables or even more existing in the same scope to have the same variable name. On the other hand, it's interesting that Java can allow Java allows the definition of two methods with the same names in the same class, as long as these methods have different parameter declarations. And this process is what we call method overloading, and it is one of the ways Java supports polymorphism. So Java decides which version of the overload methods to call by the type or rather by the type or the number of arguments, or both the type and the number of arguments. This simply implies that overloading methods must have different number of parameters, and also different number of inputs. So when you call a method, when a call for a method is encountered, Java is going to simply execute the version of the method whose parameters match the arguments that are used to call that method. Let's demonstrate this. So let's have our main class. So public static void main, and we say string args. We have our square brackets, and then we have our curly braces. So inside the curly braces here we are demonstrating methods overload. We are demonstrating methods overload. So let's create a class. Remember we said class, we're creating it outside the main, just below the package there. So let's create a class. I will call this class overload demo. I'll call it overload demo, and I am gonna supply this class with a simple method, say void test. So test is basically a method in this class, void test, and what this method does is we want it to work without parameters. So system.out.print ln, we simply type message here and say no parameters. So this first method doesn't have any parameters. Now let's have a second method in the same class that is going to take the same name. For example, we want to have a method that is the test method, but in this time we want this test method to actually use one parameter. So let's say overloading or overloading tests. That is the test method. We are overloading it, and in this case for one parameter. The first one takes no parameter. Now the second one, we want it to take one parameter. So again, void test, use the same name, void test. We have the same name there. We have curly braces. Now this method here is going to take one parameter, so we want to give it int a. So it's taking an integer a, and we just want it to print a. So system.out.println, we want it to print a, so something like a, then it prints the value of a. So we have plus, then we have a, and then we have the semicolon out there. So this is the second method that has the same name. Now we are going to let's have a third method that is going to actually have two parameters. So again, void test. Now this method has got two parameters, so int a comma int b. So it's gonna take two parameters at this step, and what we want to print is we want to print a, and we want to print b. So system.out.println, what we want to print is, let's say, a and b. Then here we actually print a and we print b. Okay, we can just create spaces between all these two, so we can have that. Then we have the plus sign. Again, we can come here, we want to create space here, so we can have that, and again here we have the plus sign, so that we can have a presentable output. Now that is another method. Now as much as this one is printing a and b, we want it to have a return type, so that means we need to change the type for this method. So the return type, we want it to return a multiplied by b, and because it's returning a multiplied by b, then here we cannot have void as a type. Let's just have double. Let's have double as a type, so that it can return a multiplied by b. Notice we have three methods. All these methods have the same name. The difference is the number of parameters they really have. The first one has no parameters, the second one has one parameter, and the third one has three parameters. But all these methods, they have the same name. This is the concept. This is the concept we call overloading. So let's go to our main. Let's go to our main, and in our main, we want to create a new object. So we can say we have created a class. Let me see, how did I call this class? I called it overload demo. Yeah, so I say overload demo is equal to new overload demo, because we are creating an instance. Okay, is equal to new overload demo. What's wrong? No, overload demo. Here we need to give our object. Let's just call it my object name. So overload demo, my object, is equal to new overload demo, and we want to print the results of method 3. So we declare a double result, that is a variable, and then we can call, let's say we are calling all versions of the test object, I mean the test method. We are calling all the version. In other words, we want our program to work in a way that when we do not supply it with a parameter or with an argument, it calls the method that works without arguments. If we supply it with one argument, it calls the method that works with one parameter. If we supply it with two arguments, it calls the method that works with two parameters. This is what we call method overloading. So let's call the first is I said my object dot test, my object dot test, and we are not giving it any value. Then let's call another one, my object dot test, and this one we're going to supply it with one value. Let's give it 30, and then not ob, said my object, sorry, this is my object dot test. Again we supply it 30, and then we have another one, my object dot test. This one we want to supply it with 2, so let's give it 30, 20. Remember, again, the method that uses the two parameters will show us the arguments that we have supplied and also the results of their product. Okay, so that's it, guys. So what we want to really show here, we want to, let's print the result. Let's print the result, or we can really have okay, it's returning this. Yeah, let's print the result. So result is equal to my object, be my object dot test, my object dot test, and we want to get the results, and we need to give it something like 70, 10. Oh, okay, 70 and 10, that's what we want to give it, 70 and 10. Okay, then I just want to print result. So system.out.println, we are printing result, that's it. So we can run our program. Let's see the results. Now A is 30, A and B 30, 20, A and B 70, 10. Then this one gives us 700. So this is what we call overloading. So when an overloaded method is called, Java looks for a match between the arguments used to call the method parameters. Now this is, however, not always exact. So some cases Java's automatic type conversion can play a role in overloading resolution. So also return types are not used for overloading resolution. So how does Java know which method to call? It looks at the number of arguments supplied and then check which method has that number of parameters. It can also look at the type and check which one has that number. Now that's it, guys, about overloading. Let's create another class so that we are able to talk about or rather we can still use this one. I want us to talk about constructor overloading. So I'm going to remove my this entire class here. I don't want to create another one because of time. I'm just gonna remove this whole thing there. I'll come in here and remove this whole thing as well. Yes, so that we can continue from there. So we are talking about constructor overloading. What we were discussing previously was method overloading. Now constructor methods overloading will be it will be the norm. Constructor and methods overloading will be the norm for real world classes that you are going to create as a programmer. Now if we look at our box example that we were using in the previous classes, now you realize that the box constructor needed 3 parameters, meaning that all the declarations of box objects must pass 3 arguments to the box constructor. So if you just say box ob is equal to new box without supplying any argument, then basically it will give you an error. So options, as if you want to initialize maybe a cube, for example, by specifying only one value. You want to feed in one value, and then you want to get the volume. Since you're dealing with a cube, that will be dimension that you supply is supposed to be used for all the 3 dimensions, but that option is not available when we are dealing with the previous box class that we dealt with in the previous class. Now the solution is to simply overload the box constructor to handle the situation. So we overload the constructor in a way that it can even handle when we supply one measurement to know that whatever is supplied here is a cube. So we are going to define 3 box constructors that can initialize the dimensions of a box in various ways. So guys, let's get started. Let's come up here and have our class. So our class was box. Our class was box. So we come here, guys, and let's have our class. So class box. Okay, class box. Now let's give it a double width, double height, give it double depth or length, whatever, or length. Okay, double length, you give it double length. That is our class. Now since we have our class needs to have constructors that can handle different scenarios. For example, when all the dimensions are specified, number 2 when there is no dimension specified, and number 3 when a cube is actually created. So let's start with the constructor when 3 dimensions are specified. Say constructor when all dimensions are specified. Let's deal with that constructor. Now we say the constructor has the same name as the class but follows the syntax of a method. So we need to have box, then brackets where you can put the parameter list, then followed by the curly braces, and here we're going to say width is equal to w. Okay, before we say that, let's have our word here, our parameters here. So we have double W, we have double H for height, and we have double L for length. These are our parameters. Again, so we say here that width is W, and remember, you can use the this keyword. I talked about that. Then we have our height is equal to H, and we have length which is equal to L. Now this is our first constructor that actually will be used to initialize objects if we supply all the three parameters, or if we supply three arguments. Then we also need another constructor when no dimensions specified, when we have not specified any dimension. So let's create that constructor. So box followed by parentheses. We are not going to put anything in the parentheses because this constructor does not take any arguments. Now what we're going to do is, here we are going to initialize all these dimensions to -1, because -1 is going to indicate that is going to indicate an initialized box. So we're going to say width is equal to -1. We're going to say height is equal to -1. Again, we are going to say depth is equal to -1. We're going to say depth is equal to, no, we don't have depth, sorry. I'm confusing depth and length from many times. Okay, length is equal to -1. Again, we need to have another constructor, and this constructor this time is when let's just say constructor for a cube, when we just supply a single measurement. Then should be able to create a cube. So again, box, and for box we have double L. That L will stand for, or let's just say len for length, because measurements for a cube are the same. And we can say the width is equal to the length is equal to the height, and all this is actually equal to len, because everything is the same. Now we are done with our three constructors. Let's move on now and compute and return volume. So we need to have a method to compute and return the volume. We need to have a method that will compute and return the volume. So we have double, the method name is actually volume. The method name is volume, and of course that for parameters, and we have the curly braces here. Now this is returning the volume. So width multiplied by length multiplied by height, right? Multiplied by height. Okay, that is what it's returning. Okay, so we are computing and returning the volume. That's just one method. So let's go in our main now. Now in our main, we first need to create the boxes using the various constructors. So the first one, say box my box one is equal to new box, and for the first one we are supposed to supply 3 arguments. So we're going to supply 10, 20 and 15. Let's create another one. Box my box 2 is equal to new box is equal to new box, and in this time we are going to supply no arguments, and then we have box my box 3 box my box 3 my box 3 is equal to new box, and in this case we're just going to supply one argument, so 20. Let's supply 20, and that's it. So we have created our various boxes, like different boxes with different measurements. Now we need to have a variable that is going to hold our volume for the, so double vol, that is going to hold our volume. Now let's get the volume for first box. Let's get the volume for the first box. Now to get the volume for the first box, we say vol is equal to, now we call the volume method box1 dot volume. That is going to give us the volume for the first box. Now having the volume for the first box, we can print it, system dot out dot print ln. We can print it, and we can say volume for my box 1 is, then we have plus here, and we say vol, so that we print volume for my box 1. Now we need to do the same thing. So here volume for second box, and I'm going to say that vol is equal to my box 2 dot volume, volume. Okay, so there we are. And then we move on to printing the volume. I'm just gonna copy this just a 7 time. I'll copy this line of code, Control C, and paste it here, Control V. So we are going to get the volume of a cube. Volume of a cube is the next thing. Volume of a cube, of course, vol is equal to my box 3 dot volume. My box 3 dot volume. We need to supply it a length, and the length for okay, this one is already okay. We initialized the values up there, so we don't need to supply that argument. So we just have that, guys. And again, we need to print, yeah, so we change this to box 3, we need to change this to box 2. Yep, guys. Then we can run this. Just want you to see what is happening. So when we run this, we check the output. Oh, okay, we want to proceed. Method void not found at lessons. Data overloading. I don't know what's the issue. Let's check. There's an error. You need to check where that error is coming from. Okay, class box. Okay, the type box is already defined. Oh, okay. I understand why. We have another program in this same package that has the same class, the same name, and that's why we get this. So let's just add a y after the box C, so that we can just add a y everywhere. Add a y everywhere. Let's see. Let's try to add a y everywhere. Okay, let's see. New boxy. Let's just see boxy. So it's supposed to be boxy again. Supposed to be boxy. Okay. Any error anywhere? Okay. What is this saying? Box is already defined. We are using boxy let's see. Now if this will refuse to run, we'll have to copy this code and we create another class and then we paste this code to 7 times. Now it's working. Yeah, 3000 -1 8000. Now I taught you about a package. So when we create a package, all the files that you created there are one file is able to read to into another file. So if you have classes with the same names, that is going to throw you into an error. Again, it's important to understand that we can use objects as parameter. We can use objects as parameters in the places where we are actually using the normal parameters. Now there is a concept that is of essence for us to understand, that is argument passing. So there are two ways a computer language can pass arguments to a subroutine, and the first one is call by value, the other one is call by reference. So call by value copies the value of the argument into the formal parameter of the subroutine. Thus any changes that you make on the parameter has no effect on the argument, while call by reference is actually a reference to an argument that is passed to the parameter. So the reference is used to access the actual argument specified in the call. Now this would simply imply that changes that are made to the parameter are not going to affect the argument. We're going to get more into this much later, and for now I want to stop there. I will meet you guys in the next class.